In this video, I want to answer the question, what is Agile Project Management? Agile is an approach to managing projects. If it's not too grand, one might almost say it's a whole philosophy. Agile is an adaptive approach to project management. Instead of trying to define the solution up front in the way that we often do in traditional project management, what we do in Agile is we define a starter to the solution, and then as we develop that, we then start to look for the next and the next and the next components of the solution. We cycle around the traditional life cycle of define, design, build, test, and implement, but in short iterations, adding additional functionality as we go. And of course that means that Agile is ideal for rapid development where we've got a complex system that we don't really understand. This ability to develop our project further as we understand it more means that Agile has a number of particular characteristics. It's iterative and incremental, and it has a high involvement of users or customers because they are reviewing what we've achieved and giving their feedback, and we're using that feedback to develop the brief for the next stage of the iterative process. It's flexible, it has a fast turnaround, and it has constant reviews of priorities and indeed the scope of work, which is something that from a traditional background project managers find a little unsettling. Often team structures are non-hierarchical with dynamic allocation of resource, and it also means that because of this there's a real shared understanding of what it is the project team is doing, because everybody is involved in regular planning meetings. A lot of the principles of Agile have been around a long time, since the 1950s, which is way before my time. But it first became a thing with the publication of the Agile Manifesto in 2001. And the Agile Manifesto, like so many manifestos that try to create a big change in the way we do things, was admirably compelling. It was short and pithy. It said this: we're uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. Agile is only a set of principles. There are a number of specific methodologies that have been brought into the Agile fold. Methodologies like DSDM, extreme programming, Scrum, which is arguably the most widely used Agile methodology today, Kanban, which is also very widely used, and Scrumban, which, not surprisingly, merges the two. So we use Agile where it's well suited, or we should, where things are uncertain and environments are changing rapidly, where we're unclear of the requirements or the full requirement set at the start of our project, where we value higher levels of teamwork and integration with the user base. It's often described as a fast-fail approach. We do something, and if it doesn't work, if it fails, we just scrap it and we do something different. And therefore, Agile is particularly well suited to low criticality environments. You probably wouldn't use Agile to develop a highly safety critical system, for example. And finally, Agile is really powerful and useful when you're in an entrepreneurial environment. The entrepreneurial mindset of try stuff out and find out what works is really well suited to Agile. And so a lot of startups use Agile development to get a product to market and then to constantly reinvent that product, to up-issue it to version 1.1 to 2 to 3, version 2, version 2.1, 2.3, because Agile allows you to constantly innovate and constantly improve your product. Now, Agile is important. It isn't just a flavour of the month anymore, and the PMI have recognised this. In the autumn of 2017, they're bringing out the 6th edition of the PMBOK, and this, for the first time, is going to recognise Agile as an important part of project management. Now, I'm not saying Agile should supplant traditional project management. I'm a traditional project manager. I believe in it. I know it works. And I'm not necessarily saying that you should take a purist approach and say, well, it's either traditional or it's Agile. I think the right answer, and the answer that project managers have been applying since even before Agile was ever thought of in the 50s, is to take the best from the Agile principles and the Agile tool sets, and the best from the traditional waterfall principles and tool sets, and to mix them and blend them into the right solution for your project. But here's the thing. If you don't know anything about Agile, it's time to find out. Because the days are gone when you can be a successful project manager and not even know the principles of Agile and how to make them work as part of your project. In this video, I want to answer the question, what is the Agile Manifesto? In the early 1990s, software development was going through what some commentators called the application development crisis. People were starting to notice a significant lag in the delivery of new software applications. It was taking too long to complete them and get them ready for the operational environment, so that often, when they were delivered, they were already out of date. I remember my software engineering colleagues talking about some of the new responses to this in the mid-1990s. They were using a technique called Rapid Application Development, or RAD. This was just one of many software development processes that engineers created in the 90s to address this problem. Others included Rational Unified Process, or RUP, Crystal, Extreme Programming, or XP, Dynamic Systems Development Method, or DSDM, Scrum, and Feature-Driven Development, FDD. In 2001, 17 software development engineers met to discuss the kinds of solutions these methodologies offered to them. As a result of the meeting, they published the Manifesto for Agile Software Development. This is the copyright of the authors I've listed, and you can find that list at agilemanifesto.org. However, I can freely copy it in any form, but only in its entirety. So, I shall read it and post it verbatim. This is the manifesto they put out. Manifesto for Agile Software Development. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So, what do the 4 values in the Agile Manifesto mean? This part is my own interpretation, and it's likely that the 17 authors will each have their own take on them. And other authors and writers and video presenters will have their interpretations too. First, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Agile puts a lot of emphasis on self-managing teams and strong communication. This is not something we don't do in predictive project management, it's just that Agile has built up the emphasis on it and, importantly, developed a number of new tools to help make it effective. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Here, The emphasis is on products and deliverables that users can start to use early on and get benefit from. Yes, we need to document that software and the requirements. But Agile says, let's just get something working to deliver value. Agile practitioners or Agilists often use terms like minimum viable product, MVP, and shippable product. A minimum viable product is a product with the smallest set of functionality and capabilities that can still deliver value. We use it as the basis for immediate feedback on how to improve the MVP to deliver more value by adding important additional capabilities and functionality. A shippable product is a product that works. It's one that you can hand over to users and into beneficial use. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. I'd like to think that any project manager will engage with their clients. For me, the big difference is the emphasis that Agile puts on this collaboration. Responding to change over following a plan. Once again, the difference is a matter of degree. Traditional project management does, of course, have change control processes. However, Agile project management is built around that change. It puts constant change, constant re-evaluation of priorities right at the heart of the methodology or framework. There are also 12 guiding principles of Agile. A few years after the publication of the Agile Manifesto in 2005, two of the original members gathered a new group of people to articulate some principles to inform the application of the Agile Manifesto. We don't have time here to comment on all of these 12 principles, but here they are, as articulated at agilemanifesto.org. 1. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. 2. Welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. 3. Deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter timescale. 4. Business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. 5. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. 6. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. 7. Working software is the primary measure of progress. 8. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. 9. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. 10. Simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. 11. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. 12. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. I have a detailed article that explains each of these 12 principles, and I'll put a link in the description. For all you traditional, predictive project managers who are wondering how to do a basic Agile project, that's what I'm going to explain in this video. The first thing to note is that there is no single way to do an Agile project. There are many methodologies and, of course, infinite varieties as we create different kinds of hybrid project to suit the needs of the situation and the culture within which we're working. Secondly, I am no Agilist. I am simply reporting to you what I have learned about the process of doing a basic Agile project. I don't have deep experience to call upon. As a result, this is going to be no more than a basic introduction. And I'm also not going to talk about the Agile Manifesto or the 12 basic principles of Agile, nor indeed the fundamental philosophy that underlies Agile, the thought processes that make a project agile and adaptive and incremental and iterative. I want this to be a practical introduction to the basics. And finally, I'm not even going to try to define what I mean by a basic project. Just recognize that this is a simple process that you can apply to simple projects. If you want to deliver a big, substantial, consequential project using Agile Project Management, then you need to take whatever you learn in this video as nothing more than the starting point to expand your learning and to learn properly from an expert. All of that said, the first step is some form of project planning in which you understand the basic scope of what it is you're trying to do and evaluate the feasibility of doing it successfully. In Agile projects, we break our project up into short phases, which in Scrum are known as sprints, but are more commonly and more widely known as increments or iterations. Crucially, we always aim to deliver something useful by the end of each of these stages. And each stage is a thing in itself, in the sense that at the beginning of each stage, we figure out what we want to achieve in the stage, we plan how we're going to do it, we build the thing, and we test it and subject it to review by our user group or our stakeholders. And of course, we take our stages in a logical order, taking the highest priority things first. These are the things that are either foundational or offer the greatest value or benefit to the user group, to our client, or to our sponsor. We use a roadmap as a tool to articulate how our project will develop different features over time, so that successive sprints or increments will develop successive features, enhancing the feature set and the capabilities of the products that we're developing. We don't worry about the details and the planning for activities that are into the future. Rather, we just log the requirements that we will need to fulfill further down the line in what is known as a backlog or a product backlog. And then those tasks that we bring into the current iteration or increment or sprint become the sprint backlog or the team backlog or iteration backlog. In the near term of the roadmap, we do set out the features that we're going to develop in the early sprints. This is sometimes known as release planning. However, we do review and revise this frequently at the start of each sprint to ensure that our release plan is current and adapts to changes in priority and to what we learn from the previous sprint. At the start of each sprint, we draw down from our main backlog enough activities to fill up the sprint to meet the capacity of the team during the sprint. And the capacity of the team is, of course, the product of each team member's individual capacity by the number of team members that we've got. The longer the sprint, the more we can achieve in that sprint. Sprints tend to last for anything from 1 to 4 weeks, with 2 as a common and typical number. However, what is important is the concept of these increments of delivery rather than the actual duration of the sprint. During the sprint, the team takes each feature through the standard process of analysis, design, development, and testing. And the team will meet regularly and frequently to compare notes with one another and to make sure that everyone understands where we are. Most often this is daily, and the daily meetings are sometimes known as morning stand-ups, or in Scrum as daily scrums. These help the team to understand one another's progress and their plans for the coming day, and they also give team members the opportunity to ask for help and to offer ideas. It's these daily meetings that keep the team fully coordinated and also allow them to adapt as a team to setbacks or changes in requirement. At the end of the sprint, the team will demonstrate the work it has achieved to its users and to its stakeholders in a sprint review. This is where the users can carry out the final user acceptance testing before determining that they will accept the new products or the new feature set into beneficial use. Once this has happened, the last event of a sprint is a sprint retrospective. This is where the sprint team gets together to examine its process and to understand what it can learn from the way that they work together in the preceding sprint. This will rarely involve users and outside stakeholders, and it focuses on the team's process rather than the results of what it did. The outcome of the sprint retrospective is a series of lessons learned that the team will implement to improve its process. This, of course, is followed by sprint planning for the next sprint. Throughout all of this, there are, of course, a number of ongoing activities exactly as you would expect as a traditional or predictive project manager. These include things like cost management, risk management, stakeholder engagement and communication, and of course, quality assurance and quality control. Please do not take this as a rigid definition of an agile methodology. It is just an illustrative set of activities that agile projects frequently employ to embody the agile philosophy of learning as you go and developing ideas incrementally and then fixing things that don't work iteratively to produce a solution when you can't properly predict and plan for it all at the outset. And if you find these processes and ideas appealing, then there are two things that you should do. One, you should start to use them and adapt them within your project process. And secondly, if you want to take it further, then get yourself some good Agile project management training, and I'll put some links to courses that I recommend in the description. Some people might expect that Agile projects don't need or don't use risk management. It would be equally easy to think that risk management in Agile projects is completely different to the way we do it in predictive projects. That would be wrong too, as would the assumption that risk management in Agile projects is just the same as in predictive project management. As is so often the case, the answer lies somewhere in between. The truth is that risk management is somewhat similar and somewhat different when we compare it in predictive and agile project management contexts. Indeed, there is much that traditional predictive project managers can learn from and adapt from the way that risk management is carried out in effective agile projects. Clearly, we need to adapt the way that we do risk management to the nature of the project and its characteristics, starting, of course, with the level and types of risk that we encounter. There's also the risk attitude of your customer or your sponsor or your boss or your project board. And of course, there is the attitude to risk embedded in the culture of the sponsoring organisation itself. As you'd expect, risk management is more adaptive and more emergent in agile projects than it is in traditional predictive project management. That is to say, the way that we manage risk evolves through the project to meet the needs, rather than being planned out right at the outset. Whilst the basic process of project management is the same in predictive and in agile projects, we tend to apply the risk management process at two distinct levels. Level 1 is the project level. For this, we create an overarching risk management framework for the whole project. Level 2 is the level of the iteration or sprint. Risk management becomes a process that happens within each iteration, so that each iteration or sprint assesses and manages its own risks. The risk management process that we apply at both of these levels can be illustrated in many different ways. The way I like to explain it is as a 5-step recursive process. First, we identify the risks that we have, and then secondly, we analyze them so that we can understand and prioritize those risks. Third, we plan for how we are going to manage those risks to bring them to an acceptable level or remove them completely. And fourth, we implement our plan and take action to manage the risks. And fifth, we monitor our progress and control our risk management process before cycling back to check whether, if we haven't been successful, we need to create a new plan and take more action. And of course, from time to time, we may want to reanalyze the risks we've had, or even identify whether there are new risks emerging within our project or iteration. However, there are elements of risk management that differ in agile projects. First, the adaptability of agile project management is a response to risk. Where we do not have clarity about what it is we're producing right at the outset, then one way to manage the risk of that uncertainty is to adapt and learn as we go, to tackle the project in a number of iterations rather than to plan the whole thing at the outset. Because each iteration bites off only a small chunk of the requirement, it limits the risk we are taking at each iteration. Often, as risks increase, we reduce the iteration cycle time so that we're biting off smaller amounts of risk with each cycle. The second main difference is that we follow the whole risk cycle within each iteration or sprint or cycle of our product delivery. This increases the team's focus on risk, and of course, because of the way that Agile uses small teams with high levels of communication and collaboration, this means you get a further enhanced focus on risk, which can be enhanced even more by discussing risks at each morning stand-up. Third, the use of a backlog is also a risk management approach. Firstly, it allows us to defer high-risk activities and user stories, usually the ones with the greatest level of uncertainty, until we have more experience. That means we can have more knowledge and therefore reduce the risk. But also by deferring high-impact user stories, we can wait until the team has more skill, more experience of working together, and therefore a greater chance of mitigating the impact of any failing. Secondly, we can use spike stories as a means of investigating uncertainties. A spike story is like a user story, but it is a story designed to investigate and answer a specific question, and therefore reduce uncertainty and risk. A spike story is also known as a time-boxed investigation, which for me is a far better description. The fourth difference is the use of sprint reviews and sprint retrospectives. And I've also done a video answering the question, what are sprint retrospectives, which also covers sprint reviews. In sprint reviews, we can also consider the impact of risks from this sprint on backlog items that we may bring into future sprints. And one use for sprint retrospectives is to sharpen the team's ability to manage risks in future sprints. The use of sprint retrospectives ensures that the team is able to hone its process and therefore get better at managing risk and delivering, and thus reducing risk, throughout the life cycle of the project. There are some real benefits that Agile offers to the risk management of projects, but there are also some problems as well. The first of the problems is that there is often no clearly defined risk manager or risk owner. The entire team is responsible for the risks, which could be a benefit, but it could also lead to people within the team shedding responsibility. That is to say, because everyone else has responsibility, then I can become complacent and not take my share of that responsibility. Secondly, the lack of ownership, alongside all of the benefits of an agile process to risk management, can lead not just to complacency, but also to a cavalier attitude to risk. Because risk management can be so effective, by reducing the likelihood of risk, it psychologically leads us to take more risks, and therefore, ironically, by being better at managing risk, we end up increasing our risk profile and taking more and bigger chances. However, the benefits of agile working to risk management are real. Agile working encourages transparency, which means we are more likely to get better risk identification as everybody is open about what it is they're doing. Agile working also puts a big emphasis on collaboration, and that means we get to see better planning and better problem solving in the face of risks and issues. Third, agile working puts a big emphasis on customer involvement. This can mean greater accountability for the risks and enhanced business participation in risk identification, analysis, and resolution. And this level of customer involvement can also help to manage expectations amongst users. Finally, the use of stable teams in Agile Project Management, small teams working together for a long period of time, iteration after iteration, means the team gets better at its processes. In particular, it gets better at estimating cost and schedule. This reduces budget and schedule risk. Because all project management is fundamentally hybrid project management, I believe we should be taking as many ideas as we can from the agile world to enhance risk management in all forms of project management. And there are many great ideas that we can harvest. I hope you will spot one or two ideas that you can implement in your project. Whether you work in a formal methodology of Scrum, in another form of Agile project, or indeed in a predictive plan project management approach, the idea of the morning stand-up or the daily stand-up is something you can benefit from. So in this video, I want to look at how to hold a daily stand-up meeting. Daily stand-up meetings are short. For a small Scrum team of no more than half a dozen or so people, it's typically 15 minutes. But the essence is on keeping it short and sharp. And 15 minutes is good, and we stand up to stop us relaxing and taking our time over it. What's important is pace and energy, and making sure everyone concentrates throughout the short meeting and contributes fully. There are two styles of daily stand-up meeting that are commonly used. These are the round robin, often associated with the 3 questions, and working the board or walking the board approach. Let's start with the round robin. In a round robin daily stand-up, the facilitator of the stand-up will go around the room, working through each member of the team and asking them a set number of questions and getting their responses. And the commonest set of questions, often referred to as the 3 questions, are these. Question 1, what did you achieve yesterday? Second, what will you be working on? What will you be aiming to achieve today? And third, what are the blockers that you'll be facing today? The impediments to your progress. This is a chance for the team member to identify problems and to look for help from the team. This may be a little bit of general advice from the team at the meeting, or it may be a specific offer of help, or maybe a request made for help from an individual team member. Team members should keep their answers short, precise, and businesslike. The walking the board approach starts with a Kanban board. It starts with work in progress and moves from the right to the left. For each task, the facilitator will identify who owns it and ask how progress is going. In particular, they'll focus on the blockers or impediments to making progress and then open up the discussion about the support that the group can give to unblock progress. In both styles of daily stand-up, the team is expected to flag any conversation which is off topic to bring it to a halt. If that conversation is valuable, if it's going into a topic in depth, then individual team members can schedule time after the stand-up to go into that topic in the level of detail they need to. And finally, in the spirit of agile approaches to project management, you should have an agile approach to your daily stand-up meeting. Constantly review how effective it is and look for ways to refine and improve the process of the meeting. And as new members join the team and as other members leave the team, you may find that you'll need to shift the way you facilitate the meeting to get the best out of the individuals who are present. I have never worked on an agile project, but I have worked on many projects that follow predictive, planned project management approaches. And on many of those, I have been part of or facilitated daily stand-up meetings. It is not an artifact solely of the agile paradigm. It's a technique that you can use on your projects to better control the project and to allow everybody to work as effectively as possible. Please do give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. I'll be creating loads more great project management content, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of that content, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.